Welcome to Story Planet, where we bring you relaxing tales to help you unwind. Tonight's story is A Christmas of Kindness. So, settle in, get cozy, and let yourself be carried away into a world of peace and warmth. Now, let's begin. The Bluebell Bistro sat nestled on a snowy street in Christmas Hollow, a town so picturesque it could have leapt out of a holiday postcard. Icicles dangled from lampposts, shop windows glowed with warm yellow light, and every doorstep wore a wreath of holly or pine. Inside the bistro, the atmosphere was just as enchanting. Twinkling fairy lights lined the ceiling. The rich aroma of fresh bread and roasted coffee filled the air, and a jukebox softly played old Christmas classics. James, a man in his late 20s, moved about the bistro with quiet efficiency. Tall and lean, he had a kind smile that seemed to mask the weariness in his eyes. He had come to Christmas Hollow 3 years ago, escaping the noise of the city to find a quieter life. But the hustle of making ends meet had followed him. Working long shifts as a waiter left little time for rest, let alone dreams. As Christmas approached, the bistro became busier. The garlands and ornaments hanging in every corner seemed to amplify the joy of the season. But for James, they only deepened his longing for home. The thought of his family's living room, where the fire crackled and the tree sparkled with lights, filled him with a bittersweet ache. Late one evening, during a brief pause in the dinner rush, James slipped behind the counter and pulled out his phone. The call connected quickly. "Hi, Mom," he said, trying to sound cheerful. "James." Her voice was warm and full of love. "How are you, sweetheart?" "I'm okay," he replied, though the lump in his throat betrayed him. "Listen, Mom, I'm not going to make it home for Christmas this year." There was a pause, long enough for James to hear the faint sound of holiday music playing in the background. "Oh, James," his mother said softly. "We'll miss you, but I understand. You're working hard, and we're so proud of you. Just promise me you'll take care of yourself." "I promise," he whispered, his voice tight. "Merry Christmas, Mom." After ending the call, James stuffed his phone into his apron pocket and took a deep breath. He turned to face the bistro, his smile back in place, but he didn't notice the couple sitting near the window, their eyes full of quiet concern. Alan and Edith Cooper had been regulars at the Bluebell Bistro for years. In their 60s now, they carried an air of gentle wisdom. Alan's silver beard framed a face that seemed to smile even at rest, while Edith's hazel eyes were soft and kind, always sparkling with curiosity. They had retired to Christmas Hollow a decade ago, leaving behind a small bookstore they had lovingly built and nurtured for most of their lives. They'd seen James many times before. To them, he was more than just a waiter. He was a young man carrying the weight of unspoken struggles. When they overheard his conversation that evening, it struck a chord deep within them. "Alan," Edith said softly, setting down her cup of peppermint tea, "we can't let him miss Christmas with his family. Not when we can do something about it." Alan nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You're right. Let's talk to him before we leave." When James brought their check, Alan looked up with a warm smile. "James, do you have a moment?" "Of course, Mr. Cooper," James said, standing politely by their table. "We couldn't help but overhear your call earlier," Edith began gently. "You're missing Christmas with your family?" James hesitated, embarrassed, but their kindness encouraged him. "Yeah," he admitted. "I can't afford to take time off. and things are tight right now. Alan's voice was steady and warm. You know, we've been in your shoes, struggling to make ends meet, working through the holidays, feeling like the world's weight was on our shoulders. But then, someone showed us kindness, and it changed everything. Edith nodded, her expression soft. Years ago, a neighbor left a basket on our doorstep with a note that said, "You are not alone. Keep moving and dream bigger. It's not too far." That act of kindness reminded us to believe in ourselves and in the goodness of others. It gave us hope. James listened, his heart stirred. "That's incredible," he said quietly. "I guess I've been so focused on getting by that I forgot what kindness feels like." "Then let us remind you," Alan said. "We'd like to cover your trip home for Christmas. Consider it a gift from one family to another." James blinked, overwhelmed. "Oh no, I couldn't possibly." "You can," Edith interrupted gently. "And in return, promise us this. Keep dreaming, and never stop believing in what you can achieve." That night, James boarded a bus bound for his hometown, his heart brimming with gratitude. As the vehicle rumbled down snow-lined roads, he stared out at the moonlit landscape, his thoughts swirling. The unexpected kindness of strangers had filled him with a warmth he hadn't felt in years. Tears welled in his eyes as he whispered, "There really is magic in this world." In that quiet moment, he made a vow. He would use this experience as fuel to set bigger goals. He'd work harder, not just to survive, but to thrive. The journey itself felt enchanted. The bus passed through quaint villages and frozen rivers, each scene more beautiful than the last. James imagined the joy waiting for him at home, his mother's embrace, his father's laugh, the twinkle of lights on their tree. By the time the bus pulled into the station, he was practically buzzing with anticipation. He leapt from his seat, grabbed his bag, and ran straight into the snowy night, his heart leading him home. The moment James stepped into the house, the warm glow of the fireplace and the scent of cinnamon wrapped around him like a comforting hug. His mother appeared in the doorway, her hands flying to her face in disbelief. "James!" she cried, rushing forward to embrace him. Her arms encircled him tightly, and he felt the familiar love and warmth he had longed for. "I can't believe you're here. How did you manage it?" James smiled, his voice filled with emotion. "It's a long story, Mom, but let's just say there are still kind people in this world." He shared the tale of Alan and Edith over steaming mugs of hot cocoa, his family listening with wide eyes and grateful hearts. The story seemed to light up the room, and by the time he finished, his mother was dabbing at her eyes with a napkin. "It's a Christmas miracle," she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. The days that followed were simple but magical. James helped his mother prepare their traditional Christmas dinner, the aroma of her signature roast filling the house. They laughed over old stories, exchanged small but heartfelt gifts, and sat by the fire, basking in the joy of being together again. On Christmas morning, James took a walk through the village, the crisp air biting at his cheeks as he greeted familiar faces. The snow-covered streets sparkled in the sunlight, and the church bells rang out a melody that seemed to echo the peace in his heart. When it was finally time to return to Christmas Hollow, James felt a twinge of sadness, but also a newfound resolve. This trip had reignited something within him, a drive to make his life meaningful and to carry forward the kindness that had brought him home. The days that followed brought new purpose. When James returned to the bistro after Christmas, he carried a spark within him. He worked harder, with renewed energy and determination. Over the next few years, his efforts bore fruit. First, a promotion to supervisor, then the bold step of opening his own restaurant. 5 years later, Kindred Kitchen stood as a beacon of warmth and community in Christmas Hollow. Each Christmas, James hosted free dinners for struggling families, honoring the kindness that had once changed his life. On one such Christmas, James decided it was time to repay the kindness that had changed his life. He booked tickets for Alan and Edith to visit his hometown and celebrate Christmas with him and his family. When Alan and Edith stepped off the train, they were greeted by James, his face glowing with excitement. "Welcome to my village," he exclaimed, his voice tinged with both joy and gratitude. "This Christmas, I want you to feel the love and magic you once gifted me." As they made their way through the snow-covered streets, Alan and Edith were captivated by the charm of James's village. Strings of lights twinkled above the cottages, wreaths adorned every door, and the sound of carolers singing in perfect harmony echoed through the frosty air. The sight of James's family home, warmly lit and bustling with life, brought a smile to their faces. James's mother, her eyes shining with warmth, rushed out to greet them. "You must be Alan and Edith. Welcome," she said, enveloping them in heartfelt embraces. "We've heard so much about you, and we are so grateful for the kindness you showed James." Inside, the house glowed with festive cheer. A crackling fire cast dancing shadows on the walls, and the aroma of spiced cider and freshly baked cookies wafted through the air. The dining table was set with care, adorned with evergreen sprigs and candles that flickered softly. The Christmas Eve celebration was nothing short of magical. They shared stories around the table, each tale weaving a tapestry of joy and gratitude. James's mother's cooking was unforgettable. A feast of roasted turkey, buttery mashed potatoes, and her famous spiced apple pie that had everyone asking for seconds. After dinner, they gathered by the fire, their voices blending harmoniously as they sang carols, laughter ringing through the house. On Christmas morning, James took Alan and Edith to the village square, where the community gathered in celebration. Children played in the snow, their laughter mingling with the sweet melodies of a choir singing beneath a towering Christmas tree. The Coopers couldn't stop marveling at the beauty and warmth that surrounded them. "This," Edith whispered to Alan, "is the true magic of Christmas." As the holiday came to a close, James's family hosted a farewell dinner. James stood and raised his glass, his voice steady but brimming with emotion. "Alan and Edith, you taught me that kindness is the greatest gift. This Christmas, I hope you feel the magic your kindness brought into my life." Alan, his eyes glistening, lifted his own glass. "To James," he said, "for proving that kindness, love, and hard work can create something extraordinary." James smiled, his heart full. "And to you," he replied, "for inspiring me to dream bigger and to spread this magic wherever I go." And so, on that magical Christmas night, two families from different corners of the world, once strangers, now kindred spirits, became closer than even the deepest bonds of kinship. Alan and Edith, pure souls with hearts open to kindness, and James's family, filled with gratitude and warmth, found themselves united by the enduring power of love and generosity. It was a vivid reminder that kindness, no matter how small, has the ability to weave lives together in extraordinary ways. A bus ticket for a stranger, a warm meal shared in a time of need, or a helping hand extended at the right moment. These gestures create ripples that transform lives and fill the world with hope. They make the ordinary extraordinary, showing that every act of giving, no matter how simple, carries the seed of magic and positivity that can change the world. Thank you for joining us on Story Planet. If you felt like you were right there in the warmth of family and kindness, consider giving a thumbs up. And if the story brought you peace and calm, feel free to share it with friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe for daily stories from Story Planet, offering serene escapes every day. Wishing you a peaceful night and a relaxed sleep. Sweet dreams.